Well, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to explore current and future trends post-COVID in the co-living and service apartment sector, initially in Germany and then for the rest of Europe. For some time, we've seen an increase in popularity of co-living models, specifically Germany, but it's clear that other markets are catching up, and it's been interesting to see what impact that has had on the subsidiary products and services that we represent. I'm delighted to be joined today by two experienced panelists, perfectly placed in the industry to help us understand more. Bianca Vandersee is a senior consultant and Apartmentservice in Germany. She specializes in new residential trend co-living and the areas of competitive analysis, marketing and sales, as well as an interim management. She is trained hotel management assistant, has many years of experience in the hotel industry, and has been familiar with the segment of temporary living for almost 20 years through her professional activities. Philippe Laukart is the co-founder and CEO of WeWash, GmbH, and started his career with BSH Home Appliances. Now, these are the appliances made by the company behind brands such as Bosch, Siemens, and Neff, where he gained an in-depth knowledge of international laundry appliance markets, discovering early on that consumers' needs were rapidly changing due to urbanization, the sharing economy, and digitalization. Philip, together with his co-founder, realized that a new sustainable approach was needed for washing and drying of laundry in urban areas. This led them to found WeWash in 2016 to establish a smarter way of doing laundry. So Bianca and Philip, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
So Bianca, if we can start with you, we are just exiting a pandemic period. We hope we're exiting anyway. So it's good to see Germany is starting to open up after the pandemic and the lockdown. How quickly do you see the sector restarting? And what do you think will be the ongoing impact of the virus on the sectors over the coming few months?
So first of all, we have to clarify that there wasn't a shutdown asked by or ordered by our government. So it was always a decision of the operators if they think that it is economically justified to keep the project open, or if they decided to close down temporarily because it doesn't make sense for them. So the good news is we had more than 70% of our service apartment providers open and available for our clients. So of course we saw a shift in the target groups we had. So there were key workers, there were people stranded and that couldn't go home, and people using our service apartments as offices or hotels booking into our objects. But in general, the hotel market was much more or less resilient. We were resilient. We were the long stay with our long stay focus. We had an occupancy in March from 50 to 70%, and it just decreased in May to 20 to 30%. And compared to the hotel market with less than 10% in Germany, we were very much better up. So this is the good news, that the long stay focus really helped us through this crisis. When it comes to restart now, the main issue is to regain trust, to keep the guests safe in our houses, to make sure that we have all safety measures taken and hygiene standards up. And this is actually what's the main issue right now when it comes to restart, because there are not so many service apartments providers that have to reopen. Mostly they're apartment hotels that had a short stay focus as well. So when you ask me for an outlook, this is the most difficult part. It's like looking into the crystal ball, as you say. And of course, we see a pickup coming with short and medium stays from our corporate clients. We actually had a campaign all the time with the hashtag We Are Open, our social media channels, and we now have a hygiene badge for our partner houses also to make sure they are coming back. So we actually think that there will be more demand in the third and fourth quarter of 2020. We at least hope so. And well, probably we need another year to be on a good level again regarding the requests for travelers. But we have actually two challenges in the future here in the German market. We see a big interest from the hotel market in long stays. So they are trying to get hold of our long staying guests. And the second is that we are going to see a huge increase on the market growth with more than 50% more units than we have now. So the competition will be there.
If it wasn't already. Yeah. So what, I mean, in terms of future aspirations and trends, what are you seeing? What are your expectations within the German serviced apartment market and apart hotel sectors then moving on from here?
Yeah, so prior to the crisis, we were really seeing a peak in its development regarding serviced apartment in Germany. So as I said, we had so many new projects, new sub-brands, hotel chains developing long stay products, and so many projects, co-living as well here in Germany, and they are still there. They will be completed, and this makes about 17,000 new units until the end of 2022. And we just starting from 31,000 units right now. So we think that these projects will, of course, be finished, and it's an interesting concept, the long stay concept, and as I said, more resilient than the hotel market has been. So when it comes to the trends we saw in the last project we had to advise, and we of course read, is that the apartment sizes were actually reduced, the number of units in the objects were increased, maximized as it could be. And of course, it was also an idea of the developers and an idea of the investors, and we are supporting that to have more community spaces to substitute and compensate for the small apartments. So this is a really interesting point to see. Either they used living lobbies as a combination of community areas, or they used it as to position various community areas in the buildings. So this definitely will continue. These trends are still important, and so probably the only thing we are really discussing is if we have to rethink the size of apartments, that we really should have these small apartment sizes, because we need the community areas and we have to stick to social distancing rules. So community spaces are important, but with respect to social distancing.
So you think it's still continuing? That's really, really interesting. Certainly the demand on co-living and so forth. And Philip, you've been involved in this for a long time. What do you see the changes in consumer needs and trends towards, I suppose, the sharing economy impacting on the sector, and certainly with regards to WeWash and your business side of things?
Well, I think in general, technology and digitization helped in recent years to make sharing services really popular among consumers. So, I mean, the best example is the transportation sector, where youngsters in urban areas these days have so many sharing transportation services available at the fingertip, really, that the attractivity of owning a car, for example, is really, really shrinking. Yeah. So sharing services become much more normal, much more popular, and this is also what basically WeWash is based on, because with help of digital measures of digitalization, we make sharing of washing machines and dryers attractive. Yeah? We offer an app where users can check if a machine is available to them or not, where they get notification as soon as their laundry is done, and where they can pay cashless. And obviously currently with COVID-19, cashless payment is a big benefit as well. Yeah, and I mean, the trend towards sharing is also a big opportunity for serviced apartment providers, because like Bianca said, with a shrinking size of apartments, a shared laundry facility really gives you the opportunity to free up space in single apartments. And well, I mean, if your target group is used to these kind of services, brilliant, because then you can really create a win-win situation here.
Interesting. And Bianca, can you share with us your thoughts about the rise of the co-living concept, certainly in Germany, and perhaps give us some examples of the developments as you are seeing them?
Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of co-living projects here in Germany that we can see now, and of course we are supporting it as far as we can, because it's actually one of my favorite parts of the segment right now. So let's see. I have probably two examples for you. So one is definitely Quarters. Quarters is one of the main providers of co-living space. It is based in Germany, actually, here in Berlin. And they have properties in Berlin, in Munich, in Stuttgart, and they have properties in the Netherlands already, and they're having also properties in the US already. So New York, Chicago, very big one, and they have a huge pipeline also for the US and for Germany as well, and I suppose for Europe as well. And they are more or less engaged in the sector of furnished accommodation with a co-living aspect, with their community areas in each object. So this is really a very successful one coming from Germany and being important for Germany. Another one, which is actually more familiar to do, is the Collective. It's of course one of the big players that are coming from the UK, and they actually announced their market entrance here in Germany for 2021, and they are really different from Quarters, because Quarters is actually offering shared apartments, and the Collective has a different concept with complete apartment units and more community spaces than just one. So this comes also to a laundrette, which is important for WeWash as well, which is our partner, of course. And so these are the two very big players that are trying to to make the segment more popular. So when it comes to our projects that we are having right now, there's one very interesting one here in Berlin, which is called The Base, and I think this actually has everything a co-living enthusiast will like to have, like a cinema, fitness room, co-working spaces, event kitchens, everything. So this is going to open in the first quarter of 2021. This is going to be exciting, and we also worked for a real estate company that has a very interesting concept of shared apartments with apartment units in it. So, and they're using WeWash, so for laundry. This is these are actually the main ones. So in general, the market is still young here in Germany. People have to get used to the idea of co-living still, but the international guests are really pushing it. And I think that there are a lot of small individual operators with a big heart for co-living that are actually doing the business right now, and the big ones will come.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we've been saying for some time that because of COVID and social distancing, there's going to be a perception that people want to spend time apart from each other. But it's interesting to say that you're seeing, you know, the desire to want to co-live in this sort of environment continues to be on the agenda of everyone. So that's very.
Yes, I had a conversation with one of our operators in co-living here in Berlin, and she said, I already told Philip, so he knows it already, that there was a guest who was actually asking to move from a serviced apartment into a shared living apartment just to be with someone.
Wow.
It was still only for him, but I think it's a matter of course, still the generations, millennials and Gen Z, that will like to have it, and I'm convinced that even after COVID, we have these trends, and probably a little different than before, but I think co-living is still a very nice concept. I like it a lot.
So Philip, talking about laundry facilities, because obviously it makes, forms a major part of the development of the co-living concept. What developments are you seeing when it comes to shared laundry facilities and so forth?
Well, I mean, basically shared laundry facility is a basic aspect for co-living development, in my opinion, because it obviously is a well-managed, nicely designed shared laundry facility is a great place for people to meet. Yeah. And in Germany, we see more and more that the shared laundry facility is not placed somewhere in the dark basement, yeah, but it comes more up to more prominent, more lightful, more stylish areas in the building, so that this community aspect is really pushed to a maximum. So, I mean, co-living and shared laundry facilities really are a perfect match, from my opinion.
Interesting. And what are you seeing in the UK by comparison then, Philip? I mean, do you think the UK is lagging behind Germany in the popularity of co-living, or what are you seing? What trends are you seeing?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because as Bianca said it, from German point of view, the UK is way ahead when it comes to co-living, at least from my point of view. But I think the general trends that underlie the growth of that sector are not country specific, but rather based in the attitude of the Generation Y and Generation Z. And these search for belonging to a community is something that co-living really can help people with, which is a brilliant aspect. And like I said, shared laundry facilities really can help here as one puzzle piece, yeah, in a co-living concept, to create really a win-win situation, to free up space in single apartments, and at the same time push the community aspect by offering a well-done, nicely designed shared laundry facility.
It's interesting that it's becoming the focal point for community living, as you're suggesting. So, I think that's an important part of incorporating it into the shared living concept. So, what are your plans then specifically for the UK over the coming few months and years ahead, from a WeWash perspective?
I mean, we joined your event in December, and obviously our activities in the UK were slowed down by COVID-19 a bit. We haven't seen that one coming. But having said that, we are absolutely excited to be a business partner of ASAP, as we strongly believe in the growth of the service apartment sector, besides the current pandemic and also besides Brexit. We think there are a lot of opportunities for us in the UK, and we were able to win the fantastic Joyce. I hope I pronounce her surname correctly. Yeah, a cuff rope. So sorry, but it's really hard for German to pronounce that one. But to win Joyce as a business consultant for the UK, because she can provide us with great access not only to the service apartment sector in the UK, but also to other sectors like student accommodation or caravan, where we see a lot of opportunities. So in general, we think it's really time now for us to bring our innovative and digital products and services to these customer segments in the UK.
That's really interesting, and I'm sure when Joyce hears this, she will be delighted. She's a huge advocate for our industry and support for ASAP. So, and I join you, and I'm sure everyone that's watching this, and thanking Joyce for all her efforts. But of course, this is about you both. Really appreciate your time this morning, Philip and Bianca. Thank you very much for joining us in Germany. Really interesting to find out more about the concepts and what you're doing to help support us. So, thank you both very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.